Okay, so hi everybody. Yeah, okay. I don't. My brain's not working well. Okay, so I decided that I'm gonna try something that I have never tried to do before, which is I'm going to read you a book. And so it won't all be in one sitting because this is a pretty thick book. But well, let me give like a pretense, I guess, and that would help. So recently, amongst the world, as you all know, a lot of crazy things are going on, and so we've gone through COVID, and now all the riots are happening, and there was a bunch of other things happening underneath all that, but wasn't so much on the mainstream, So recently, I guess I should give you a little bit of a background. I stayed away from social media forever, like forever. When MySpace first came out, I was in high school. I didn't think it was that cool. All my friends got involved in it. We're like, come on, get on MySpace. And so I finally made one. And then I had fun with it to a certain degree, a little bit. I wasn't on there like most people were, but I liked being able to personalize it and do all the little things. And back when you had to figure out code, in order to be able to get your background colors and get all these little music videos and all these things. And you had to, wait for dial-up to load your page and, etc. Anyways, getting off topic here. So when Facebook came out, I really hated it. I thought Facebook was garbage. I wasn't super into the social media thing in the first place. I just felt that it was taking away from, real communication between people and real hanging out. And everybody just kind of wanted to sit behind their, back then, box screen. But it wasn't as inundated as it is now. Cell phones weren't really a thing yet either. They were coming around. A few miscellaneous people had them. They were still buttons and flip phones, or the Nokia before that, with the green screen. I'm going all the way back. Anyways, so it never really grabbed me. Recently, I had decided I wanted to challenge myself. I had a lot of things going on in life, and I lost someone really special to me, and that made me just decide I needed to do something to take away from that, not to take away from it, but to do something rather than sit and be super sad. I wanted to take the, frustration and move it into momentum. And so I decided to start a roller skating challenge, and I figured that one of the best ways for myself personally to actually stick to something every day is to basically obligate myself to somebody else. That probably sounds ridiculous, but it's a trick that works. So for example, when I wanted to start playing guitar, I knew that if I just wanted to, if I was to just sit down and try to play every day, that would never happen. I would always get distracted, something would happen, things would come up, etc. So I knew if I started with lessons for the first 3 months, all I need is a little bit, just this little bit of time. But if I did lessons, I was obligated to show a teacher or a person, whatever, that I was working on this, and it gives me a form of responsibility to more than myself, and then I stick to things. So with roller skating, there was no way that was going to happen. I was like, there's not anybody doing roller skate lessons, although I would like to do that. That would be fun to teach other people now that I've figured it out, but anyways, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a little vlog. I had never been on Instagram at all. I didn't even have a phone that could do Instagram. Up until literally a few months ago, my friend gave me his hand-me-down iPhone 6, which they're at iPhone, I think 13 now or something. So, I'm still back in I had an Android. It was an Android, but it was when they first came out with smartphones. That thing was 7 years old, and it still worked. I couldn't download apps on it or anything like that, but my phone and text worked. But then I started getting messages that they were discontinuing that, and so they literally Metro PCS or T-Mobile, because T-Mobile bought them out, but this was right before T-Mobile bought them out, literally made my operating system obsolete, and so I stopped receiving phone calls and text messages, and literally the phone just no longer functioned, not because the phone broke, but because they refused, because they're trying to push 5G on us and they want everybody to get new phones. So beyond all that, I never even had the option of doing anything app-based, but I decided today is day 256 or 255 of roller skating. So 255 days ago was when I decided I was going to start this vlog and do a roller skate vlog. And so that reintroduced me to social media. I had stayed away. I do mean that. There is a Facebook floating out there, and I would get on once or twice a year just to say hi to some friends or family that live far away, and otherwise I stayed away from it. I hated it. I think it's just a drama-induced numbing. I'm totally against anything that is against freedom of speech and or that does censorship. So that's a big freaking hoorah for me. That's a no. If you do censorship, and I'm not participating in you. So anyways, I didn't know that Instagram was Facebook also yet at the time. I should have figured that out beforehand, but I wasn't paying attention to social media because I thought it sucked. So anyways, I decided I was going to do this roller skating vlog, and I was going to make a YouTube channel for it, which is also censored, so I'm looking at other avenues. And I figured I would do an Instagram for it, because I wasn't interested in getting on a Facebook with it. They do have some roller skate groups, but even that's blown up into a bunch of drama now. So I'm just right back off of being anywhere near any of that. But so on Instagram, long story short, sorry, so where I'm getting, okay, we're moving along here. I started discovering that there were people asking questions. Now, by that, what I mean is, I'm going to give you a pretense as to how I even discovered this book, and which, by the way, we're talking about William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. I love this book. It's so beautiful. Or Bill Cooper. He goes by Bill also. But so, a pretense of this. For as long as I can remember, for as long as I have been alive, I have asked questions that people can't answer, or they give me nonsense answers. So by that I mean, for example, an answer that I received often to anything, doesn't matter what it was, would be, that's just the way it is. That is not an answer. Okay? People, that's not an answer. If you don't really know why something's happening, well, then you should probably find out. And so, since I was a very small child, just the way the world worked, I just didn't understand it. Like, that's just the way it is not an answer. No, that's just the way we've allowed it to become. So I need to figure out how it became what it is in order to fix things. Like hunger, no excuse. Violence is going to happen because of I don't totally think violence is in human nature, but I do think positivity and negativity have a balance. So violence will happen, but it could be happening at a far lesser scale, and the reason that it's happening in such great amounts is because we're being manipulated to make it happen in the way that it is now. Class battles, race battles, all these stupid things, so as you can see all that very clearly now. Things are blowing up right now in 2020, but so needless to say, I always ask questions. I got in trouble all the time for things. I would get talked to by teachers. I would be like taken to the side and like, oh, Jiz, you just, sorry, let me turn my phone off from yelling at you. Okay. Anyways, so I knew something was afoot, if you will. I knew there had to be more to what was really the driving force behind the decisions that people are making, all the way up to countries are making. It just didn't make sense to me. It did not make sense. Okay, so I was born in 1989. That's not an important detail for you to know, but that means that I am 31 years old, right? So that means that I've been through a good amount of things now, and one of the things that I think is a defining factor is that for me personally, I was asking questions through the buildup of technology. So before things were as they are now, there was landline phones. The internet wasn't really there at all. There was no computers weren't around. I remember when computers got put into school in the first place, and they had a little, what do they call that? Those little quick build buildings, portable. They built a portable for the computer room, and everything was the green screen, old Apple multicolored reverse rainbow, by the way. So remember that. That's a good key factor if you ever pay attention to symbolism. Ass in the air, head in the ground if you tilt your rainbow as far as the chakra system is concerned. But anyways, green screen, you had to put in a floppy disk. Like, this was way before everything was what it is now. So you were still involved with other human beings. You still could talk to other humans. Social discourse and debate and things were good. They were looked upon as good. You could have friends and be around people who didn't have the same views as you, and you could debate it out and see and learn. And I loved that. I thought that was amazing. I always, as a little kid, thought that you should never be hell-bent to your opinion, because that's all it is an opinion. No matter what we've learned, humans are what have taught us what we have learned. So we are not, all-knowing gods, right? So things have changed many times. I mean, for God's sakes, they've changed the solar system. I don't even know how many times now, as far as like Pluto's a planet, Pluto's not a planet, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, there's tons of things you can look at that, like, it used to be this, and now it's this. Flat Earth, perfect example. We believed the Earth was flat for a hell of a lot longer than we thought the Earth was a globe. The globe only has been around like the last 100 years. So like this whole like flat earthers are crazy. It's like, well, but everybody used to think it was flat forever. I mean, forever. There's still humans alive right now that remember being taught it was flat. Just remember that. Okay, so my point being is that humans don't have all the answers. So you should always be open to learning more. Nothing is concrete. So when I was getting ready to graduate high school, everybody else, sorry, I'm getting long-winded here. I wanted to get to the point of how this came around and where all this came from. I really didn't see, I had been through, 9/11 had happened. I had watched the economy crash. I had watched many people lose their homes. I watched my own parents. We were going through bankruptcy. There was financial stability was something that was completely artificial to me. And I had already, learned about the Great Depression. And I remember in school learning about the Great Depression and asking, how is that possible? How is it just overnight businesses are shut down and everybody's starving? It didn't make sense. It goes against human survivability. So to me, it only made sense that that was a created incident. It didn't make sense that it just naturally occurred, because naturally we would all just keep going about our business and making sure to survive. So but money is randomly this thing that no. So anyways, continuing. By the time I was graduating high school, which was 2007, most of my friends were going to college. I was too poor to go to college. I did manage to enter a essay competition on why I was poor enough to deserve a grant. No kidding. That was really tell us why you're so poor you think you deserve a scholarship. So anyways, I won. I had a scholarship to go to Seminole Community College at the time. It's now a state college, but at the time it was community college. And it was supposed to cover 2 years to get my AA. Well, that was balderdash. It didn't do that at all. I never even finished it. It was obnoxious. I went through the whole thing, but there was all this nonsense with, financial aid and blah, blah, blah. So it was always late putting in the classes, even though I wasn't late. The school side was late. It was a whole thing. So basically, you just ended up with a bunch of filler classes that were garbage to make them feel better that, we helped a poor person get into college, but you didn't really actually get anything out of it. It was totally nonsense. So it really, just the whole thing showed me that this was set up. It was set up. Certain people are allowed to succeed and certain people are not allowed to succeed in the sense of where you are financially, where your class resides. Clearly some people are going to be born into a nicer life in the sense that they're going to have more opportunity, and there's going to be people that are born into a not as nice life and they're going to have less opportunity, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the stage that's been created, okay? So when I saw that basically college could be such a fail, ultimately speaking, I was like, even more questions and nobody has the answers. And so I luckily, right around that time, right around 2007, I was introduced to a documentary, and that documentary was called Zeitgeist. And a lot of people are very on Zeitgeist, but here nor there, it had incredible information, and that incredible information is what started everything for me, in the sense of it gave me finally an area to look, to dig into research. I'd always been looking and I could never quite figure out where do you start? How do you know where to begin? I would look at people and you could see people were related, and not necessarily as in related, bloodline wise, but related as in they did things together, they met through other people. There was clearly a connection happening between the powers that be, if you will, that run the answers that happen to, the things that are decided upon in this world, and especially in America, in this country, but the whole world now. We're on a global train here, everybody. New World Order, they're working on it. But anyways, so I never could quite figure out where to start. And then it was just it was just like that. Zeitgeist was the Federal Reserve, and it was this monumental, just God voice was yep, follow the money. And I was of course, follow the money. How did I not think about that, And so that got me researching. So from 2007, so we're going on, we're in 2020, 13 years now. When I got out of high school, I started researching. Research. And of course, when you're researching, you run into good and you run into bad. So that being said, the internet was a very different place than it is today. So what I mean by that is I did a lot of book research. One of the reasons I brought up 1989, this book was written in 1989, the year I was born. So everything that William Cooper, or Bill, he goes by Bill also, talks about in this book, if it wasn't already happening, happened. Okay? Happened. So let's be very clear about this. Bill Cooper, or William Cooper, he's not alive any longer. He was murdered. We'll go into that because they go into the, I'll go into that after we get into the book a little bit. I'll touch on things as we go. But so he was murdered for this book, but also for his radio show, The Hour of the Time. He was a naval intelligence officer who basically, got the JFK papers across his desk, showing that we killed our own president, and he went AWOL and had a friend, very smart friend, convince him that that was not the right thing to do, and to go back into the Navy and to learn as much as he could, and then spread that to the American people so that we could learn about what was happening. And he didn't expect to learn any of the things that he learned. He didn't expect to figure out that basically there's pretty much this is going to sound like everybody else that talks about like the Illuminati and things like that. But the thing is that there's a reason a lot of people are talking about that, guys. Okay, that's why I felt the need to finally do this, because it's happening. It's been happening, but it's getting real clear now. Okay. And so there are people of very high stature in this country and around the world that their goal is to literally make a new world order. And you can call them whatever you want. I don't care what you call them. It doesn't matter what we name them. We call them the Illuminati or the elite, or we get into the little facets of the different ones, the Scottish Rite and the Bilderberg Group and all the different little people. If you wanted to get into Gates and Rockefellers and blah, blah, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you figure out it's happening, and that you start paying attention to where you're putting your money, for one, so you're no longer funding them, although they're far past needing our funding, to be very clear. These people are gajillionaires, okay? And they have used all of their money to try to form the whole world into a new world order, so that they basically want to reenact what Nazi Germany did on a global scale, and they just want human serfs. They want to use us for their fodder, basically. And I won't get into all of that. We don't need to. That's not the point. I mean, it is the point, but the point of this is that recently, after getting onto social media, getting onto Instagram, doing these roller skate things, I started seeing these people talking about these things, and I was like, hold on, there's humans that are aware. Let's see what they're saying. Because for the last 13 years of my life, I've been being told that I'm insane. I either get told I'm crazy, or I'm delusional, or I'm a conspiracy theorist. That's the best way, by the way, in case you didn't know. That's one of the top plans that they make, as far as best ways to make sure that we don't get figured out, is to create a word that labels people with a brain that think about things into a little box, so that you never actually consider what they're telling you, even if they have resources, even if they have tons of resources, even if they have information that came out before these things happened and told you they were going to happen to the T, and they happened. Okay, let's just remember that. Let's just remember, okay? There were people that not only put their whole life in danger, died, most of them died, to try to tell us about these things. Before the internet existed, they used their entire life savings, which they were not rich people. Bill Cooper, perfect example. He used his life savings to mail information to all of Congress, because he thought he could fix the problem by doing that, okay? And he sent it to all these different people. He spent like thousands of dollars, which in like the 70s was a huge amount of money. Let's be very clear. To mail stuff so that people would learn what was happening, so that he could try to change it on the government level. But the government was already infiltrated, and that's what he figured out, you know. But so, all of this being said, I come to you today with William Cooper's Behold the Pale Horse, because I have been talking to some people online about it. Most of them have never heard of it. That's not surprising to me at all. And they were very interested to start reading it. And then I started looking around online. And when I found out about this book, and I don't even remember exactly how I found out about this book. I was doing all kinds of reading, bouncing back and forth in between a bunch of different things, you know. And basically, I started looking for it. And I had found out about Hour of the Time, his ham radio show, and I had found out about a bunch of different things. And I was really intrigued, and I wanted to know who this man was. And I was knee deep into the JFK situation. You know, we were in the 50s, figuring out like what was happening. And you know, so boom, just jumped right in, and basically was like, where do I find this book? Sorry, the internet was not what it is today. You couldn't just find everything yet, you know. It was getting there, but it wasn't there. And so I looked and looked, and I'd gotten all these bookstores, and I'd called and used bookstores, new bookstores, didn't matter, everywhere. No one had it. Got a hold of the library. The library had a list of people waiting on their one copy that was somewhere like 2 to 3 years backed out. So you were going to wait 2 to 3 years before you could read the book. And I was like, and by the way, this book is banned in certain countries. I don't remember now, because it's been a long time since I read it, what those countries are, but it is banned. So anytime a book is banned, that normally to me means right away that you should be reading it. You should just go, you need to know exactly what that book's talking about. Get in it, you know? So anyways, I went, actually, funny enough, I was working at the mall at the time, because I was a hairstylist. And I went up to the Barnes & Nobles in that mall and was like, hey, listen, this is probably, I'm sure you're going to say no, because everybody else has said no, but any chance you guys can get a hold of this book or have it or know it's at one of the locations or anything? And the girl told me that, like, oh, like, no, they didn't have it, but like, hold on, interesting, so she gives me a minute to wait, and she's like looking up some stuff. They had the ability to request that it be printed because it was out of print, and apparently they had some company that would make prints if they were special ordered and you paid up front. Let's go. And so funny thing is that I actually found my original receipt, which you can't even see because it's mostly wiped itself out. But it looks like I originally spent $29 and some odd change. Can't exactly see because it's blown out. And I bought this on November 16th of 2013. Got this book 7 years ago. So I know that is a long-winded intro, and I'm sorry, but I had to kind of give you a pretense as to why. So when I was talking to people about this, lots of people are looking for it. Some don't have access to it. People are finding things, though, where they're able to order it. But I figured for everybody else that either doesn't want to order it, can order it, or maybe you're in a country that can't even read it, I'm going to do an audio read for you. I apologize in advance. I've never read a book out loud to people. I always read to myself. I feel really, really robotic reading out loud. But we're just going to get in it. And I'm going to try to get caught up. I'm going to try to do this every day. If I can't do it every day, I will be keeping up on it, though. So chapters will be coming out. I promise. I'm not starting a project that I don't finish. I can't stand that. That's like the worst thing ever to do to a person. So anyways, beautiful. Behold the Pale Horse. Well, that's weird for you to read. By William Cooper. That's the man. There's a kitty snoring back there. So, this copyright's from 1991. By William Cooper. Just get right in it. Okay. I'll go through everything. So the beginnings and everything. The whole thing for you. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of the earth. That's from the Holy Bible, the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 8. The ideas and conclusions expressed in this work are mine alone. It is possible that one or more conclusions may be wrong. The purpose of this book is to convince you, the reader, that something is terribly wrong. It is my hope that this work will inspire you to begin an earnest search for the truth. Your conclusions may be different, but together, maybe we can build a better world. William Cooper. We got our next little poem coming up in there. One basic truth can be used as a foundation for a mountain of lies. And if we dig down deep enough into the mountain of lies and bring out that truth to set it on top of the mountain of lies, the entire mountain of lies will crumble under the weight of that one truth, and there is nothing more devastating to a structure of lies than the revelation of the truth upon which the structure of lies was built. Because the shock waves of the revelation of the truth reverberate and continue to reverberate through the earth for generations to follow, awakening even those people who had no desire to be awakened to the truth. That's Delamar Duveris. Let's see, all right. Dedication. I dedicate this book to my children, Jenny, Tony, Jessica, and little Dorothy. I love you every moment of every day. And our acknowledgement. My deepest appreciation and warmest friendship is extended to all those wonderful people who have helped me to make this book a reality. I especially thank those listed below who made outstanding contributions. Some have taken great risks. Annie for your understanding and for all the sandwiches. Little Dorothy for the happiness. Barbara Ann and husband Ron, and Karen Brown, Taryn Crive, Jane Drucker, the November 5th, 1989 volunteers, Ron Rager, Keith Ranch, Gordon Davis, Billy Goodman, Stanley and Elma Barrington, Roger Scherer, Glenna Sherrill, the people who sent letters from Minnesota, Nancy Bachelder, Saul from Rhode Island, Mike Wellen, Joe Heising, J.M.P., William Steinman, Tal Levesky, Pavel, Roger and Karen LaChance, Orion Swanson, Jean Ann, Anthony Hidler, Leota Reinhardt, Tim Bennett, all who are acknowledged in the text, and all others who have so freely given, I thank you. So we go into the table of contents. I don't know if you guys actually want me to read over all the chapters, but I guess we could. So, table of contents, you have your introduction and your foreword. Chapter 1, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Chapter 2, Secret Societies and the New World Order. Chapter 3, Oath of Initiation of an Unidentified Secret Order. Chapter 4, Secret Treaty of Verona. Chapter 5, Goodbye USA, Hello New World Order. Chapter 6, H.R. 4079 and FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. Chapter 7, Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, H.R. 5210, PL 100 to 690. Chapter 8, Are the Sheep Ready to Shear? Chapter 9, Anatomy of an Alliance. Chapter 10, Lessons from Lithuania. Chapter 11, Coup de Grace. Chapter 12, The Secret Government. Chapter 13, Treason in High Places. Chapter 14, A Proposed Constitutional Model for the New States of America. Chapter 15, Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Chapter 16, The Story of Jonathan May. Chapter 17, Documentation, U.S. Army Intelligence Connection with the Satanic Church. Remember, this was written in 1989. Look at what's being talked about right now. 31 years later, guys. Let's just remember that. He does give an incredible pile of references at the end of this book. It's been a long time since I read it, but I remember being like, he also gives you, there's appendixes at the end. So Appendix A is William Cooper's military service record. Appendix B is UFOs in Area 51. Appendix C is alien implants. Appendix D is AIDS. Appendix E is New World Order. Appendix F is U.S. government drug involvement. Appendix G is Kurzweil versus Hopkins. All right, we're getting into the introduction. Let's go. Take my sugar coffee. Please do feel free to let me know if I go too fast or anything I can improve on while I'm moving forward to make it as digestible for everybody as possible. And if you have any questions, I could do a Q&A after this. I mean, you're going to hear everything that I'm learning, but I've learned at a bunch of other stuff. Sorry, there's a motorcycle outside. I've done a bunch of research under some of the references that he gives and all kinds of other people. So let's get started.